And now I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. So welcome to our caregiving support workshop. We'll be going over lots of different things today. Financial resources, health resources, respite resources, different things that come along with being a caregiver. So if you do care for an aging or disabled person, you know that it can be a very rewarding experience, but it can also be very tiresome, and it takes up a lot of energy. It's a lot of responsibility. 1 in 4 Canadians of working age, and this was in 2018, but 1 in 4 Canadians is a caregiver. I don't know, that number may have risen since the population it's aging as we go on. And an estimated 5.2 million working people aged 19 to 70 were family caregivers. And most caregivers work 30 hours a week at a full-time job. So just, I can't even imagine that. I mean, that's got to be tough, especially if you have kids too, and you're caring for, maybe a parent or a spouse that is disabled or they're ill. And also, caregiver jobs are in very high demand in Canada due to the growing population. Things like PSWs and stuff like that. Luckily, there is a lot of resources out there for those who are caregivers or in need of caregiving themselves. And together we'll go over different supports offered in the area, as well as governmental supports, both in the province and in federally, so all of Canada. So, does the government pay family caregivers? There are a few programs in Canada that give income to people who are providing care for a family member on a long-term basis. But most caregiver benefits take the form of non-refundable tax credits, which only usually benefit people who earn enough money to have a taxable income in the first place. If you are working, you likely qualify for temporary income replacement through employment insurance, EI Canada. So there's 2 different kinds of caregiving benefits. I've divided them up into 2 separate categories. So one of the categories is caregiving benefits that give you income. And these are all EI benefits. You have to be taking time off work in order to get an income for caregiving. And you're not going to get as much as you would be making if you were at work. And those are compassionate care benefits, family and caregiver benefit for children, and family caregiver benefits for adults. Now, on the other side, I have the other category of caregiving benefits, which is non-refundable tax credits. And this can be for caregivers or those who are in need of caregiving. And I'll go a little bit more into that as we go. So you'll see at the bottom I put, the blue triangle means these tax credits are available to those who are in need of or in receipt of caregiving themselves. So the top one, Canada Caregiving Credit, is only for the caregiver. And the disability tax credit, the one just below it, the caregiver can also benefit from this tax credit, but someone who is being cared for by others can use this tax credit as well as the ones below with the blue triangles. So only the first 2 are for caregivers, and the rest are for those who are being cared for themselves. And I'll talk about each different one. So employment insurance benefits. We'll start with the compassionate care benefits. If you are providing care for a family member who is at risk of dying within 6 months, you may qualify for compassionate care benefits through EI for up to 26 weeks. There is the option to extend these benefits for up to a year and share it with other family members who are serving as a caregiver with you. To qualify, you have to show that your earnings have declined by at least 40%. You must also meet regular EI requirements. If you're collecting EI already, you may still qualify for compassionate care benefits. So that is something to look into. Now, the family caregiver benefit for children is to provide care for a critically ill or injured child for up to 35 weeks. And you can take time off of work for up to 35 weeks to care for your critically ill or injured child. And EI family caregiver benefits for adults, if you need to take time off work to care for an adult family member, you may qualify for up to 15 weeks of EI. So they vary. And they all have different qualities. One is for compassionate care, one is for care for children, and one is for care for adults.
Now she should be able to hear you. Nicole?
Yeah?
Hannah has a question. Sorry to interrupt. You want to say your question?
Yeah, like I was gonna ask if you can get the employment the compassionate care benefits if you're already unemployed.
No, you have to be working to collect EI.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on.
Leave it in case we need it.
So tax credits for caregivers. This was the big one that I was talking about. Oops. For caregivers, this tax credit right here, and it's called the Canada Caregiver Credit, and it's a non-refundable tax credit available for people who are providing care to a disabled family member. And the amount of credit depends on your relationship to the person's receiving care. If you didn't realize you were eligible for this credit last year, you can claim it retroactively. So, and that is done with a certain form, which I will talk about a little bit later in this presentation, and I can help with this form. I also should mention, while we're talking about tax credits, is I am not an expert on taxes. So if anyone has some really specific questions about these tax credits, I will have to direct your questions to our tax man, Len, at Lifespan. I've researched these tax credits, but I'm not an expert. So I did try to lay out step by step what you need to do to claim these tax credits. But if there are some specific questions, please bring them to me and I will bring them to Len and we'll get some answers. Okay, so what documents do you need to support your claim for the Canada Caregiver Credit? So when you file your tax return, and this is for a lot of different tax credits, the Canada Revenue Agency asks that you don't send in any documents. You keep them in case the Canada Revenue Agency asks to see them later, and they probably will. So these documents might be a signed statement from a medical practitioner showing when the impairment began and what duration the impairment is expected to be, how long they're going to be disabled. For children under 18 years of age, this same medical statement should show that the child is and will likely continue to be dependent on others for a long and continuous period. And by this, they don't mean dependent on on the parent financially. They mean dependent on others that they need more help than a normal child for their personal needs and care. You do not need a signed statement from a medical practitioner if the Canada Revenue Agency has already approved the disability tax credit certificate for you. And we'll go into the disability tax credit after we're talking about this one. So if you already have the disability tax credit approved, you don't need to worry about getting a signed statement from a medical practitioner to claim the Canada Caregiver credit. So now we're going to be getting into the numbers. What amount can you claim for the tax credits for the Canada Caregiving credit? For your spouse or common law partner, you may be entitled to claim an amount of $2,350 in the calculation of line 3,300. And I'm going to be talking about a lot of different lines that are numbers on your tax return. So you can write them down, but don't forget, you can always come back to this video and watch them again if you forget which line you need to report on your tax return. You can also claim up to an amount of $7,525 on the line 3,425. For an eligible dependent 18 years of age or older, you may be entitled to claim an amount of $2,350 in the calculation of line 3,400. You could also claim an amount of $7,525 on line 3,425. For an eligible dependent under the age of 18 years old at the end of the year, you may be entitled to claim an amount of $2,350 in the calculation of line 3,400 or on line 3,500 for your child. For each of your or your spouse's common law partner's children under age of 18 at the end of each year, you may be entitled to claim an amount of $2,350 on the line 3,500. And for each dependent 18 years of age or older who is not your spouse or common law's eligible dependent, whom an amount is claimed for on line 3,300 or line 3,400, you may be entitled to claim an amount of up to $7,525 on line 3,450. Whew, that's a mouthful. See, even just explaining it gets me kind of confused. I mean, the concept is pretty simple to grasp. You report these exact numbers on these exact lines that they're telling you to do. But when the papers are in front of you, it's kind of confusing. So I would definitely, if you have questions about this, save them for me and bring them to me, and I will take them to Len, and we'll get your questions answered before you get your taxes done, hopefully. Okay, the disability tax credit. I have done a presentation on this one before, and it is a good tax credit because there is the potential here to see some money from it, and I'll explain at the end of when I'm talking about disability tax credit. I'll explain after how that happens. So the disability tax credit is a non-refundable tax credit that helps people with impairments or their supporting family member reduce the amount of income tax they have to pay. If you have a severe and prolonged impairment, you may apply for the credit. If you're approved, you can claim the credit at tax time. By reducing the amount of income tax you may have to pay, the disability tax credit aims to offset some extra costs related to the impairment. Applying for the disability tax credit involves the person who has the impairment and a medical practitioner who can certify the effects of the impairment. You may apply for the disability tax credit at any time during the year. And ask Lifespan or me if you'd like an application, and I can certainly mail that out to you and I can go over it with you. However, if you submit your application at the same time you file your tax return, there may be a delay in your tax assessment. We will review your disability tax credit application before we assess your tax return. To avoid possible delay, submit your disability tax credit application before you file your tax return. The person with the impairment may claim this disability tax credit on their income tax return once Canada Revenue has approved the application. If they do not there is a disability amount that reduces their income tax. And if someone doesn't need that full disability amount to reduce their income tax, they can transfer that remaining amount to a supporting family member who is identified on the disability tax credit application. And that helps reduce income tax for the supporting family member. If the supporting family member who wants to claim the credit was not identified on the initial application, they can submit a written request to Canada Revenue Agency for the transfer. This request must be signed and include details of support they provide for basic necessities of life. I can help with this too. If you have if someone you know, a family member has applied for the disability tax credit, and they would like you to be on the application, but you weren't initially, you just come to me and we'll write that letter to the Canada Revenue Agency for the transfer. Disability tax credit continued. To claim the credit for the current tax year, you must enter the disability amount on your tax return. Any unused amount may be transferred to a supporting family member, and it is not refunded. So to claim for yourself, you enter the disability amount on line 31,600. If you are the supporting family member or of the person with the impairment, enter the disability amount on line 31,800. If you are the spouse or common law partner of the person with the impairment, enter the disability amount on line 32,600. Now, as you saw in other slides, I gave you amounts that are supposed to be entered, but I could not find amounts for this tax year. So, if you do have questions about that, you can ask me and I can do a little bit more digging. But also, if you file your taxes with us at Lifespan, I'm sure Len will have those numbers too. If the medical practitioner charged you a fee for completing the disability tax credit application or for providing information, you're likely able to claim this as a fee as medical expenses on line 33,099 or 33,199 of your tax return. If you were eligible for the disability tax credit in past years but did not claim the disability amount, you may be able to claim it, and that goes back 10 years. If you did not check the box on the disability tax credit application form asking the Canada Revenue Agency to adjust your previous returns, you can either ask Canada Revenue Agency in writing to do this, to adjust your returns. You can do it yourself online, or you can fill out a T1 ADJ T1 adjustment request. It's a pretty long name. And that was the form that I was talking about a few slides ago. If you didn't know that you were eligible for a certain credit, they can go back and readjust your tax returns. And that is the one for it's the same for the disability tax credit. If you were approved, say, this year, but you've had your disability for longer than a year, I mean, you can go back up to 10 years. And this is where people see, some money sometimes. They can get a couple of $1,000 because their tax returns were adjusted retroactively, going back to when their disability first started. And I know quite a few people who have gotten this retroactively and did get a pretty good chunk of change. So if you think you might be eligible for this, come to me and we'll talk about it. And I'll give you the form to take to your doctor. And once it's approved, we'll get those retroactive years for you and get that chunk of change that I was talking about, hopefully. So tax credits for those who are being cared for. Now, everything I talk about from this point on, what involving tax credits, is just for the people who are being cared for. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the medical expense tax credit. You qualify for the medical expense tax credit if expenses exceeded 3% of your annual income. Medical expenses, that is. If your medical expenses exceeded 3% of your annual income. The list of qualifying medical expenses is extensive and includes things like attendant care, residential care, reconstructive surgery, foods for special diets, and medical cannabis. If you anticipate hitting this threshold, you'll need to track all expenses according to Canada Revenue Agency requirements. So how can you claim eligible medical expenses on your tax return? You can claim medical expenses on line 33099 or line 33199 of your tax return. So line 33099 is medical expenses for self, spouse, or common law partner and your dependent children under 18. Use this line to claim the total eligible medical expenses that you, your spouse, or common law partner paid for any of the following persons: yourself, your spouse or common law partner, or your spouse and common law partner's children who are under the age of 18 at the end of last tax year. Now, the second line that you could claim, line 33199, is allowable amount of medical expenses for other dependents. Oh, I thought I had another slide on that. I'm sorry, I do not. That was a mistake on my part. I'm so sorry for that, guys. The allowable amount of medical expenses for other dependents are for dependents that aren't yours, but they might be your common law partners from a previous relationship, and you can claim medical expenses for those dependents, even though they're not technically your children. So what documents do you need to support your medical expenses claim? Again, Canada Revenue Agency is going to ask you not to send any documents with your tax return. Keep them in case Canada Revenue Agency asks to see them later. So documents that they'll want to see and that you're going to want to keep track of so that you can support your claim are receipts. They must show the name of the company and individual to whom the expense was paid. Prescriptions. The list of common medical expenses indicates if you need a prescription to support your claim, and a medical practitioner can provide that prescription. Certification and writing. The list of common medical expenses indicates if you need a certification writing to support your claim. A medical practitioner can provide this certification. Form T2201, the disability tax credit certificate. The list of common medical expenses indicates if you need to have this form approved by the CRA for your claim. For more information about that approval process, please go back a couple slides and see disability tax credit. Okay, this is a new one. We're moving on to the fourth tax credit that is available for those who are being cared for, or sorry, no, the third. And this is called the refundable medical expenses supplement. So you could get some money back from this. It's money that you would have, as you've already spent for medical expenses, and the government will refund it back to you. If you have a low income and high medical expenses, you will be able to claim the refundable medical expense supplement. You may be able to claim this supplement if all of the following apply. You entered an amount on line 21,500 or on line 33,200 of your return. You're a resident in Canada throughout 2022. You were 18 years of age or older at the end of 2022, and your adjusted family net income is less than $55,449. How to claim the refundable medical expenses supplement. Enter the amount calculated using the federal worksheet on line 45,200 of your return to claim your refundable medical expense supplement. You can claim this supplement for the same medical expenses that you claimed on line 21,500 and line 33,200 of your return. Okay, the next tax credit that I'm going to be talking about is the home accessibility tax credit. And this is a wonderful tax credit. I don't think enough people know about it or are taking advantage of it. The home accessibility tax credit is a non-refundable tax credit for eligible home renovation or alteration expenses that allow a qualifying individual to gain access to or to be mobile and functional within an eligible dwelling, or reduce the risk of harm to the qualifying individual within the dwelling, or gaining access to the dwelling. So basically, it's a tax credit for any renovations or alterations that you make to your home to make it more accessible for you to live in. A qualifying individual is one of the following. 1, either an individual who's eligible for the disability tax credit, or 2, an individual who is 65 years of age or older at the end of the year. An eligible individual is one of the following. 1, a spouse, common law partner of a qualifying individual. A parent, or 2, a parent, grandparent, child, grandchild, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, nephew, niece, or of a qualifying individual, or the qualifying individual's spouse or common law partner who has claimed the amount for an eligible dependent and a caregiver amount for spouse or common law partner or eligible dependent 18 or older, or the caregiver amount for other infirm dependents age 18 or older for the qualifying individual, or could have claimed the amount if the qualifying individual had no income, is a child, and if that child had been 18 years of age or of older in the tax year, was not married or in a common law partnership, who is 65 or older at the end of the year and is not eligible to claim the disability tax credit, or was dependent on the individual because of mental or physical infirmity. And 3, if 2 does not apply, an individual who's entitled to claim the disability amount for the qualifying individual, or would be entitled to if no amount was claimed for the year by the qualifying individual or the qualifying individual's spouse or common law partner. Now, that was a mouthful. Lots of ors there. They have to be very clear and very specific when they lay out the eligibility rules for these tax credits. And I understand why. They want to make sure they're going to the right people. Now, what is an eligible dwelling for the home accessibility tax credit to be claimed? An eligible dwelling is a housing unit located in Canada that meets at least one of the following conditions. It is owned, either jointly or otherwise, by the qualifying individual and is ordinarily inhabited in the year by the qualifying individual. So the qualifying individual lives there and is owned by the qualifying individual. It is owned by the eligible individual and is ordinarily lived in through the year by the eligible individual and the qualifying individual, and the qualifying individual does not throughout the year own and ordinarily inhabit another housing unit in Canada. So what are eligible expenses that can be claimed for this home accessibility tax credit? Eligible expenses are expenses made or incurred during the year that are directly attributable to a qualifying renovation of an eligible dwelling. The expenses must be for work performed and goods acquired within the tax year. So work performed by you, if you do the work yourself to renovate your home, you could claim the following expenses: building materials, fixtures, equipment rentals, building plans, permits, but the value of your labor or tools cannot be claimed as an eligible expense, which I disagree with. Work that was performed by a family member, let me get this out of the way. Oops. Expenses are not eligible if the goods or services are provided by a person related to the qualifying individual or the eligible individual, unless the person is registered for goods and services sales tax, GST, under the Excise Tax Act. If your family member is registered for GST and all other conditions are met, the expenses will be eligible for the home accessibility tax credit. Work performed by other professionals. Generally, paid work completed by a professional like an electrician, plumber, carpenter, or architect qualifies as an eligible expense to be claimed for the home accessibility tax credit. Okay, more on the home accessibility tax credit, just some notes that I thought were important. If you have an eligible expense that also qualifies as a medical expense, so if you have an expense with the home accessibility tax credit that also qualifies as a medical expense, you can claim the expense as a medical expense and a home accessibility expense. For more information about medical expenses, see lines 33099 and 33199. For condominium and cooperative housing cooperations, your share of the cost of eligible expenses for common areas qualifies for the home accessibility tax credit. I'm trying to think of an example of this. Maybe you needed to have a wheel, like a handicap button, so to open the doors at your cooperative housing. And it's in a common area. Everyone uses the front door, not just you. So that would still qualify as an eligible expense for the home accessibility tax credit. It doesn't have to be in your apartment or in your home. Like if it's in a common area, if you live in a condo or cooperative housing, those certainly do qualify for eligible expenses. And the home accessibility tax credit is not reduced by government assistance, including grants, forgivable loans, or tax credit from the federal, provincial, or territorial governments. And that's a good thing. Okay. I have to keep moving this thing. I'm so sorry about that. A little bit more on the home accessibility tax credit. So how do you claim this? You claim home accessibility to claim home accessibility expenses, complete the chart for line 31285 using your federal worksheet and enter the result on 31285 of your return. A qualifying individual can claim up to $20,000 per year in eligible expenses. When there is more than one qualifying individual for an eligible dwelling, the total eligible expenses cannot be more than $20,000 for the dwelling. The claim can be split between the qualifying individual and the eligible individuals for the qualifying individual. If the claimants cannot agree on what amount each person can claim, the Canada Revenue Agency will decide for you, basically. Okay, what supporting documents do you need to be able to claim the home accessibility tax credit? Eligible expenses must be supported by acceptable documentation, such as agreements, invoices, and receipts. They must clearly identify the type and quantity of goods bought or services provided, including but not limited to the following information. Information that clearly identifies the vendor contractor, their business address, and if applicable, their GST, HST registration number. A description of the goods and the date they were brought, the date when the goods were delivered, keep your delivery slip as proof, or when the work or services were performed. A description of the work done, including the address where it will be done, the amount of the invoice, proof of payment. Receipts or invoices must show that bills were paid in full or be accompanied by other proof of payment, such as a credit card slip or canceled check. And lastly, a statement from cooperative housing or condominium cooperation that, basically says that they permitted this renovation to take place and that they are on board with it. Okay. So this is the last tax credit that I'm going to be talking about, and it's not really, it's more of a deduction. So, and that's called the disability supports deduction. Individuals who have an impairment in physical or mental functions and have paid for certain medical expenses can, under certain conditions, claim the disability supports deduction. If you have an impairment in physical or mental functions, you may be able to deduct the expenses that you paid in the year so that you could go to work, go to school, or do research for which you received a grant. Only the person with the disability can claim expenses for this deduction. So what can be claimed? The list, there's only 2 pages and there's only 18 things that can be claimed. So the list is very short and very specific. So what can be claimed for the disability deduction? Things like attendant care expenses, braille note taker devices, deaf blind intervening services, electronic speech synthesizers, job coaching, note taking services, page turner devices, reading services, sign language interpretation services, talking textbooks, teletypewriters, tutoring, and voice recognition software. So how do you calculate your claim? You're going to use Form T929, Disability Supports Deduction, to calculate your deduction. Do not attach Form T929 or your receipts to your tax return. Keep them in case the Canada Revenue Agency asks to see them later. And reporting the amount on your tax return, you're going to enter that amount from line 12 of your Form T929 on line 21,500 of your tax return. Expenses must be claimed in the same year that they are paid. Unused amounts cannot be applied to another year. You cannot claim amounts you or someone else claimed as medical expenses already. So that we talked about that the medical expenses tax credit, and those were lines, those were lines 33099 or 33199, or amounts for which anyone was reimbursed or entitled to be reimbursed by a non-taxable payment such as insurance. However, the person with the disability can claim the medical expenses on either line 21,500 or line 33099. They could also split the claim between these 2 lines as long as the total amount claimed is not more than the total expense. Okay, so that is my last slide for the tax credits. If anyone has specific questions about the tax credits, please do send me your question in the chat or by email, and I will get back to you with a for sure answer from Len, our tax man at Lifespan. Okay, now I'm just going to be talking about some different programs that are offered by the province or in London to help people that are either being cared for or for caregivers. One of them is called the Ontario Renovates Program. This program is made possible through funding by the federal and provincial government and offers financial assistance to low to moderate income households for seniors 60 years or older, or with persons with disabilities. This program is administered by the City of London and provides limited funding to homeowners and landlord-tenant rental units. Okay, so more on Ontario Renovates Program. First, I'm going to be talking about people who own their own homes, to homeowner eligibility. Financial assistance available to homeowners is a one-time grant up to $5,000 for home accessibility modifications and a one-time forgivable loan of $15,000 for home repair. Sorry about that. Homeowner eligibility. So seniors age 60 or older or people with disabilities. The annual gross income of all household members 18 years of age or older residing in the home must be at or below $75,000. The total assets of all household members 18 years of age or older residing in the home must be at or below $30,000. And that includes things like tax-free savings account, bonds, mutual funds, and savings accounts. More about homeowner eligibility for the Ontario Renovates program. Homeowners whose sole and principal residence is located within the city of London or Middlesex County. So this is what properties are going to be eligible for Ontario Renovates. So anyone who lives within the city of London or Middlesex County, property with an assessed value at or below $320,000, and property with their taxes paid up to date. So what is eligible to be modified or to be repaired for homeowners for the Ontario Renovates program? Well, eligible home repairs could be heating systems, doors, windows, roofs, floors, and walls, foundations, vents, electrical systems, plumbing, septic systems, and chimneys. Eligible home accessibility modifications include things like ramps, fire alarms, chair and bath lifts, handrails and grab bars, raised toilet seats, levered handles on doors and faucets, accessible shower stalls, personal emergency response systems, and height adjustments to countertops. And just a little note at the bottom there, additional supporting documentation like a medical form or a letter from a doctor may be requested for assessment of accessibility modification eligibility. So who is eligible and what properties are eligible for Ontario Renovates when it comes to renting? So financial assistance is available for renters up to $5,000 in the form of a grant for the approved rental unit accessibility modification. Who is eligible? Seniors age 60 or older or persons with disabilities. The annual gross income of the household members 18 years or older must be at or below $75,000. The total household assets of household members 18 years of and older must be at or below $30,000. And what landlords are eligible for this program? Landlords can support their tenants in the application process if the tenant meets the Ontario Renovates program criteria and requires unit accessibility modifications. So I believe if you say you're renting and you did want some modifications to your unit, you will need consent and approval from your landlord to go through with that. So what sort of properties are eligible if you're renting? The rental unit must be modest, and the rent is not to exceed the average market rent in the City of London and Middlesex County as per below. So this is tough for a lot of people because we know that rent is insane right now, and anyone is lucky to be paying $1,000 a month for a unit. So what is eligible to be modified in your home if you're a renter? Well, you could have a ramp installed, you could have fire alarms put in, chair and bath lifts, handrails, grab bars, raised toilets, levered handles on doors and faucets, accessible shower stalls, personal emergency response system, and height adjustments to countertops. So how do you apply? Well, the application is online, like most things. So you can access the application online and print it off and submit it by mail. And I'm trying to show you this is what it looks like when you click on this link here. You're going to want to scroll down until you see how to apply for funding. And you'll see the homeowner application button in blue and the tenant and landlord application in green. And I should mention that if anyone wants help applying for this, please do come to me. I'm here for you. And this is one of the things that I offer as a community advocate, is to help with different government funding programs and applications. So if you're interested, please do let me know. Okay. Okay, and there is another program like Ontario Renovates that through the March of Dimes. And it's called the Home and Vehicle Modification Program. And it supports large-scale renovations and retrofits for residents of Ontario to improve their quality of life at home, to make it more accessible and easier for them to get around and live in. To qualify for this program, you must be a permanent Ontario resident, be in financial need, so combined household income of under $60,000, and have a permanent, ongoing, or recurring disability that impedes mobility and results in substantial restrictions in activities of daily living, including eating, bathing, toileting, transferring, and mobility, and are getting in and out of your home to access essential medical care or community services. If you are eligible, you can apply for up to a $15,000 lifetime maximum for home modifications, adaptations, and devices, or up to $15,000 for vehicle modifications every 10 years. Applicants with an annual income of more than $35,000 are required to contribute towards the cost of these modifications, adaptations, and devices. To find out what is eligible under this program and what is not, because it is a very big list and I would be spending a lot of time going over the whole thing. So I just put in the link here for you. March of Dimes also has an assistive devices program, and it assists adults and seniors who are living in financial need to purchase mobility devices. The program provides funding for basic and essential mobility devices directly related to an applicant's disability and current mobility restrictions. So devices that are eligible for funding consideration are canes and walkers, transport chairs, manual and power wheelchairs, scooters, power add-ons, positioning devices, replacement batteries or mobility device repairs, and used mobility equipment sold by medical equipment vendors. An eligible applicant for this program must be a permanent Ontario resident. Temporary residents and visitors are not eligible, unfortunately. You must be in financial need, so you have to have an income of under $35,000. Have a permanent, ongoing, or recurring disability that impedes mobility and results in substantial restrictions and activities of daily living, and are getting out of your home to access essential medical care or community services. And you have to at least be 19 years of age or older. So what sort of documents do you need to apply for this program? Do not send original documentation, as documents cannot be returned, and remove blackout social insurance numbers from all submitted documentation. And the required documents are complete and signed application, proof of income, occupational therapist letter of assessment, a price quote, and the vendor copy of the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care's Assistive Devices Program approval. And I just wanted to say a note about the March of Dimes Assisted Devices Program. Anybody can get an occupational therapist letter of assessment if you know who to call. And that is home and community care support services. They used to be local health integration network, but now they're called home and community care support services. And I will talk a little bit more about them in a couple minutes. But essentially, if someone was interested in this assistive devices program through the March of Dimes, you would call up Home and Community Care and request that an occupational therapist come out to your home, and the occupational therapist will do an assessment, and they also help you with this March of Dimes application. I know because I've worked with an occupational therapist for this program for a client, and it was good to have her, because as a community advocate, I just more see the social side of things, not the physical side. And she was able to go into the client's home and see how the lack of space and accessibility of the home was it was putting a strain on his activities of daily living. And so it's very easy to get an occupational therapist to come out to your home. It's easier than one thinks. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few slides. So for this program, you'll find the application online, and then you're going to want to submit it. You can submit it by mail, by email, or fax. And there's all the information there for you. Again, if you wanted some help filling out this application, you can come to me and I'll fill out what I can for you. Now, the assistive devices program, this one is through the federal government, and it helps people with long-term physical disabilities pay for customized equipment like wheelchairs and hearing aids. The assistive devices program also helps cover the cost of specialized supplies, such as those used with ostomies. To qualify, you must be an Ontario resident, have a valid Ontario health card, have a disability requiring the equipment or supplies for 6 months or longer. This program does not consider your income. So what is covered? Assistive devices pay 75% of the cost for the device, and you must pay the 25% of the cost, the other 25% of the cost. But 100% is covered if you are on Ontario Works, ODSP, or Assistance for Children with Severe Disabilities. So how do you apply? You first generally need to get examined by a doctor or therapist. Then you fill out the application form with the doctor or therapist. You find a vendor who is selling the device that you need. You get a quote from them, and you put that information on your application and you mail it out. The steps are they vary depending what sort of device you need. Like, for example, if you need a scooter, you need to go see an occupational therapist. If you need hearing aids, you need to go see an ear doctor. If you need glasses, you need to go see an optometrist. So the steps vary by device. So I would encourage anybody who's interested in this program to Google the Assistive Devices program, go to the website. It's a Government of Canada website, and research about what device you need and what are the steps. And of course, if you need help, you can always email me or call me. I'm more than happy to help out with this application as well. Okay, so next we're just going to be talking about Meals on Wheels. I'm sure most people know what Meals on Wheels is. It provides healthy food delivery services for adults with disabilities and seniors over the age of 55 in need of nutritional support by assisting those who need short-term or long-term assistance. Daily meals are delivered Monday through Friday, 11 through 1:30. Weekend meals are delivered chilled on Friday, and frozen meal delivery is usually Thursday morning. The minimum order on registration is either 5 daily meals or 1 package of 7 meals. Okay. Meals on Wheels London also provides services to adults 18 with disabilities and seniors and 55 over in need of nutritional and transportation support. These needs can be short-term or long-term. No long-term contract is required. And I just repeated a sentence that I had said on the slide before about the minimum order requirement. I'm sorry about that. So there is subsidy rates. With proof of income, you can get approved for subsidy. And registration is online using this link, or you can call them up the old-fashioned way and register that way. So what is the subsidy rates? I took a screenshot on my computer. So you could either get partial subsidy or full subsidy, and partial subsidy for one fresh daily meal with partial subsidy is $5.50, and full subsidy for that fresh daily meal would be $4.25. And you can see the chart there. It lays out what every different meal option is with partial or full subsidy. Meals on Wheels also provide transportation assistance, and that's called Wheels for Wellness. And that is, sorry about that. I had to stifle a yawn there. That includes door-to-door round-trip transportation to wellness-related appointments, appointments up to 3 hours, $24 round-trip rides throughout London, and subsidy is available for this as well. And you can register online using this link, or you can call them up and register. Snow Angels Canada. This is such a lovely little program that is all over Canada, and it's also in our city in London. If you know someone who is injured or aging or disabled and they need help shoveling their driveway, well, there's a website for that. It's called Snow Angels Canada, and it started as an experiment in kindness, a way for people to request assistance shoveling or to find others in need of such assistance. Now, to get this assistance, you have to register and make an account. And then you're going to be able to request assistance from some kind stranger in your area who will come shovel your driveway and your sidewalk for you, free of charge. It's a wonderful little service. Okay, Victorian Order of Nurses. Out of all of the sort of services and agencies that are out there for people who are in need of caregiving, I would say VON is probably the cheapest, and they're also the nicest. And they've been in business for a very, very long time. They've been servicing London and area for a very long time. They give caregiver support and training. They offer in-home adult respite. They offer overnight and weekend respite, and they offer meal delivery, and they have home help as well. That includes things like light cleaning, errands, groceries, and meal prep. I was able to find out the subsidy rate for this one, and it's $16 an hour, but you must have an income of $22,500 or less, and there's currently a wait list of 1 year. And I'll talk about another homemaking program. And unfortunately, just with the aging population, most homemaking programs that offer subsidy or that are very like low cost or free, there is a waiting list of over a year. And that's because the population is aging, and more than ever, people are struggling because they don't have as much of an income as they used to. And so the wait list for these homemaking and home help programs they're quite long. But I was talking to a lady at VON, and she's hoping that they're going to be able to hurry it along, and it'll drop down to under a year wait list. Subsidy is available for most programs. Again, I wasn't able to get subsidy rates for all of the programs, but for the home help, it is $16 an hour. If anybody wanted more information about subsidy rates, you can certainly call up Victorian Order of Nurses and inquire. They're very, very nice. Okay, Now, a little bit more on transportation, what's offered. LTC has launched specialized transit, which is called paratransit, and it's a shared ride door-to-door service designed to meet the needs of citizens in London who have a disability that prevents them on a regular basis from being able to use London's normal transit services. You must complete an application form that you can obtain by downloading it on the website and printing it off. You can go and pick it up from one of their office locations, or you can contact their brokerage office at 519-451-1340 extension 381 and leave a message with your name and address, and they'll mail one out to you. Once you have the form, you'll need to complete sections A through C and have a healthcare professional complete section D. Then you're going to mail off the form to 450 Highbury Avenue North. Oh, actually, and a note on paratransit, because I actually work with someone who takes paratransit, and she said, if you are interested in taking paratransit and you think you're going to be using this service, she wanted me to let you guys know that you really need to call in advance because they book up real fast, paratransit. So you need to call in advance if you have to absolutely go to an appointment. You want to call at least like 4 days in advance so you can make sure that you can get picked up for that appointment. So another homemaking program that I just learned about not too long ago is the John Dearness Homemaking Program. And that is assistance with daily chores such as laundry and light housekeeping for low-income people and for older adults and adults with disabilities. Low-income people who meet medical and financial criteria are given priority. And also people who are not are able to get services from other agencies are given priority. This program is operated by the City of London. I am waiting for a call from someone who is not in charge of the homemaking program, but works for the homemaking program at John Dearness. And I'm waiting for some more information from her, and I will share that information as I receive it. How to apply for the homemaking program? You just call 519-661-0400. No referral is acquired, but an in-home assessment is required for service. Someone's going to have to come out to your home and assess it and see how you're getting on. And there is a waiting list for this homemaking program too. And the program is offered for free or at very low cost. Online resources for caregivers. I was looking at some wonderful caregiving websites that offer support and resources for other caregivers. And they're wonderful websites. They have a lot of information and really good things to know that if you're a caregiver. And I've listed the different caregiving websites here, and I would encourage you to check them out. I especially really like Caregiver Exchange. It was a really great website, and the Ontario Caregiver organization, because they have virtual support programs that you can chat with other caregivers and you can sort of lean on one another, because it's a tough job to be a caregiver. So the Alzheimer's Society, Alzheimer's and dementia is a leading cause of death in older adults. So I thought it would be appropriate to share a little bit information about what the Alzheimer's Society can offer to people who are caregiving or in need of caregiving. And one of the really great programs they have is an in-home recreation program. I don't have a lot of information on it. I just know that they come to your home and you guys, you do activities together that are fun and get you active. And for more information about that, you're going to want to email Caitlin or Shantea at those emails that I provided. There's also a program called Social Hours, and this is at the Alzheimer's Society. So you would drop off the person who you're caring for, and it's a social hour for them. It also gives you a little bit of respite time. And you can do this for up to 3 hours a week. So maybe an hour 3 times a week. That's an hour that you have to yourself. They also have support programs, education, and referral services. And I would contact Alzheimer's Society to learn more about their programs and services that are offered in London, because not everything that's offered with the Alzheimer's Society is offered in our community. Like they have several different programs that are specific to certain areas. So adult day programs. Do you need respite from caregiving? Use this website to find out what adult programs, adult day programs, and other respite programs are near you. Now, this is the website I was talking about that I really like, the Caregiver Exchange. I'm just going to click on it, and I'll show you. So, if we are looking for respite or adult day community day programs, we would go into Southwest, because we're in Southwestern Ontario. And then it gives you different categories: respite care, care at home, support for caregivers. Whoops, that's not the one I wanted to click on. Respite care. So there's adult day programs, respite care for seniors, respite care for children with disabilities, adults with disabilities. So I'll just type on adult day programs, click on that, and you'll see there's the different areas of Ontario. And here we are in London, Middlesex, and it lists all the adult day programs that are available in the area. And it does this for every single one of those categories that I was showing you. And I thought that's wonderful. And I would definitely take a look at this link if you have something specific that you're looking for in the community, because sometimes it can be hard to look for something specific just using Google. And so that's what caregiverexchange.ca has done. They put all their resources together on one page for everyone to find easily. And I think that's just wonderful. Okay, let's get back to the slideshow. So I was talking about earlier, home and community care support services. If you require healthcare or personal support in your home, whether you need assistance getting back on track after a hospital stay, illness or injury, or if you have complex and chronic health conditions, home and community care is there for you. They offer a wide range of services such as nursing, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, nutritional counseling, speech therapy, PSW services, foot care, community care, such as respite, meal delivery, activities of daily living, wound care, intravenous therapy, and supportive living, like day programs. All of these things that we just talked about, you know, the adult day programs, the respite care, the Ontario Renovates program, you can get a referral from home and community care support services to make these things happen. So if you're interested in the Ontario Renovates program, but you need an occupational therapist to assess your home, home and community care can do that for you. If you are a caregiver and you're in need of respite for caring for your aging father or your sick spouse, home and community care can refer you to someone who will provide you with respite services. They're wonderful. They're a great service. And I think there's another thing I wanted to talk about with home and community care, but now I can't remember. I believe they also would be able to help with referrals for homemaking and meals and stuff like that. And the adult day programs, they connect people with those services as well. To contact home and community care support services, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you call 310-2222. No area code is required. This service will automatically direct your call to the nearest office from your calling location. And when you call, they'll ask where they can direct your call. And you'll say, I am looking for let's say an occupational therapist in London, Ontario, and then they'll direct you to a care coordinator, and they'll have some questions for you, and they'll have a sort of on the phone assessment before they send someone out to your home. So there's 2 steps to it, but it's the phone assessment is to make sure that they're gathering all the appropriate information so that they can help you the best they can. Everything that is offered through home and community care support services is covered under OHIP, and it can be provided in a patient's home or at a nursing clinic. And a care coordinator can provide more information and answer any questions you may have about their services. So that is the end of our presentation. That was a long one. Oh my goodness, it was over an hour. So thank you for sticking with me that long. If you have any questions or would like any help with anything that you saw on this slideshow, please call or email me, Nicole. My name is Nicole. I'm the community advocate at Lifespan. My phone number is listed there. Don't forget my extension because that's my direct line. If you don't use my direct line, your message could get lost at reception. I'll get it eventually, but I won't get it as quick as I would have if you have used my extension. You can also email me, and I'm in the office from 9:30 to 3:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. So, you know, we lots of opening slots for appointments if anybody needs any. And just before I go, I wanted to show everyone how to book an appointment with me. So here's the Lifespan website. Scroll down and click on Community Advocate. You're going to see
Seeing it.
Oh, you're not seeing it?
No.
Oh my goodness. Okay, one sec. Okay, what about now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the Lifespan website, and then you go under programs, you click on Community Advocate, scroll down, and you hit this button, intake form for new clients, and it's also offered in Arabic. And you just fill out that information and you hit submit, and then it gets sent right to me, and I call everyone usually in about 1 to 3 business days, and we'll set up an appointment. So I was just wondering, does anybody have any questions right now?
You go.
Too many tabs.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you have any questions, please call me or email me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And here are some other.
Thanks for coming.
They have.
Yeah, we already gave that to them.
Yes. Just a question, and just was wondering while we were listening to this, is there anything that stood out for your particular needs?
The Alzheimer's.
The Alzheimer's.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Have you been in contact with her?
No, I have not yet, just because she hasn't actually been diagnosed with Alzheimer's yet.
It's your mom? Or your-
Yeah, it's my mom, and I'm pretty sure that she is at least get the early stages of Alzheimer's. She's already in there, and it runs